Biker's daughter trapped in flooded basement. Runaway boy jumped to save her. Bikers were in shock. The water hit the basement steps like a living thing. Maya screamed once as the door slammed shut behind her, the lights snapping out at the same time. Cold water surged around her ankles, then her knees, fast, too fast. And above her, she heard men shouting her name while the flood kept rising. And then someone jumped in after her. Before we continue, tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Rain had been falling all night, but no one thought it would come like this. The clubhouse sat lower than the road, an old concrete building with a finished basement that had always been dry. Tools stored down there, old photos, boxes of club records no one trusted anywhere else. It had survived storms before. Everyone said it always would. They were wrong. The first warning came as a sound, not a sight. A deep, hollow thud beneath the floor, like something large shifting its weight. Then another. Someone joked about plumbing. Someone else said the river was higher than usual. No one panicked. Maya Ransom had been sent downstairs 5 minutes earlier. "Grab my gloves," her father had told her. "Bottom shelf by the breaker." Maya was 7, small, quick, used to the clubhouse the way other kids were used to playgrounds. She took the stairs 2 at a time, ponytail bouncing, sneakers slapping concrete. The basement smelled like oil and cardboard and old rain that had never quite dried. She reached the bottom step when the power cut. The lights snapped off so cleanly it felt intentional. "Maya," her father called from upstairs. Then the water came. It burst through the back wall where the foundation met the ground, brown and foaming, carrying leaves and dirt and something heavier that knocked her sideways. She hit the railing hard, pain flashing up her arm as the water swallowed her shoes. She screamed then, not long, just enough. Upstairs, the sound detonated everything. Cole Ransom was moving before his brain caught up, boots sliding on wet concrete as he ran for the basement door. Others followed, men who didn't hesitate in fights, men who didn't scare easily. But they stopped short when they saw the water already spilling up the steps. "Breaker's out," someone shouted. "Get a rope! Kill the power!" Cole didn't hear most of it. He dropped to his knees at the top of the stairs, shouting her name into the dark, the sound of rushing water swallowing his voice. "Maya? Baby? Talk to me." Down below, Maya coughed, choking as the water reached her waist. The basement was dark now, except for a faint gray glow filtering through the small window near the ceiling. The current pushed her toward the back wall where shelves were already collapsing, boxes breaking apart like paper. She grabbed for the railing again and missed. Cold closed around her chest. Outside, rain hammered the roof hard enough to shake dust loose. The river behind the clubhouse had jumped its banks without asking permission. Water poured through the ground, through cracks no one remembered, into the lowest place it could find. The basement. Cole grabbed a flashlight from the wall and aimed it down the stairs. The beam cut through spray and darkness, catching a glimpse of his daughter's jacket just as she disappeared beneath the surface. The sound he made then wasn't a word. Men grabbed his vest, his arms, hauling him back as another surge slammed up the steps. "You go in there, you're dead," someone yelled. Cole fought them anyway. And then a voice cut through the chaos, not loud, not panicked. "I can get her." Everyone turned. The boy stood just inside the open bay door, rain soaking his hair flat against his head, clothes clinging to a frame too thin for the cold. He couldn't have been more than 13, 14 at most. His sneakers were split at the toes, his hoodie dark with water and oil. No one recognized him. He hadn't been inside before. He'd been sleeping behind the dumpsters, tucked into a space where the wind didn't reach too hard. He woke to the sound of shouting and running boots. He followed it without thinking. Now he looked at the stairs, at the water pouring upward, at the faces of men who didn't know what to do. "I can swim," he said. "I'm small." Cole rounded on him, eyes wild. "Get out of here." The boy didn't move. His name was Eli Mercer. He'd been running for most of his life, from foster houses, from streets that noticed him too much, from adults who asked questions that led to places he didn't survive. He looked down the flooded stairwell and made a decision that felt heavier than all the running combined. "I'm going," he said. Before anyone could stop him, he dropped his backpack, kicked off his shoes, and jumped. The water swallowed him whole. Above, someone screamed his name without knowing it. Below, in the dark, Maya felt hands grab her jacket and pull her back toward the stairs as the flood surged again, harder than before. And the basement filled. The water erased sound first. That was the strangest part for Maya. The shouting above her, her father's voice, the boots, the panic, blurred into something distant and warped, like she was underwater in a pool and someone was yelling from the other side of glass. The cold wrapped around her ribs, squeezing the air out in short, panicked bursts. She kicked once and hit nothing. The basement wasn't big, but the water turned it into a moving thing, pulling her sideways, spinning her so she couldn't tell where the stairs were anymore. Her fingers scraped concrete, then air, then water again. Something struck her shoulder, one of the shelves collapsing, and pain flared white and sharp. She tried to scream again, only bubbles came out. Above the stairs, Cole Ransom watched the flashlight beam vanish into brown water and felt something in his chest tear loose. "Eli!" someone shouted too late. The boy had already gone under. The men dragged Cole back again as another surge exploded up the stairwell, slamming into the ceiling and raining dirty water down on them. The basement door shuddered in its frame. "She's in there," Cole roared, fighting hands that knew how to restrain someone without hurting them. "My kid's in there." "I know," Rourke, the club's sergeant-at-arms, yelled back, bracing himself against the doorframe. "And if you go in blind, she loses you too." Cole hated that he was right. Down below, Eli Mercer counted strokes the way he always did in dark water. 1, 2, 3. The water was colder than he expected, thick with mud and debris that scraped his arms and legs as he pushed forward. His eyes burned, useless in the darkness. He didn't waste breath trying to open them, he felt instead. The current pushed hard toward the back wall, so he angled against it, cutting sideways, small body slipping through spaces an adult couldn't fit. His chest burned already. He'd jumped without thinking about how long he could stay down. He felt fabric brush his hand. He grabbed. Maya's jacket was slick with water, but his fingers closed around the collar and didn't let go. She was limp in his grip, body light and terrifyingly still. He kicked harder. The stairs were somewhere to his left. He twisted, pulling her with him, fighting the water that wanted to drag them both deeper into the basement. His lungs screamed. He broke the surface near the bottom of the stairs just as another wave slammed down from above, knocking his head against the concrete edge. Pain exploded behind his eyes, but he didn't let go. "Maya," he gasped, coughing mud and water. Hey, breathe." She coughed once, weakly, then again, chest shuddering as air tore back into her lungs. She cried then, a thin, terrified sound that cut through the roar of water. "I'm here," Eli said, voice shaking. I got you. The stairs were half underwater now, each step disappearing fast. He wrapped one arm around her chest, the other reaching for the railing he couldn't see but remembered from a glance earlier. His fingers hit metal. He hauled them both up one step, then another, slipping, knees smashing into concrete. Water surged after them, climbing faster than they were. Above, Rourke saw the flashlight beam flicker back into view, wild, unsteady. "I see them," he shouted. Cole lunged forward again, and this time no one stopped him. He hit the water at the top of the stairs without caring how cold it was, boots filling instantly. He slid down the first few steps on his knees, arms plunging into the flood. "Maya!" he yelled again. "Here!" Eli shouted back, his voice cracking. Cole's hands closed around his daughter first, small shoulders, shaking, alive, and then around the boy holding her up. For a split second, all three of them collided in the stairwell, water slamming into their backs. "I've got her!" Cole roared. Hands grabbed from above, strong hands, familiar hands. They hauled Maya up first, lifting her out of the water, her shoes dripping mud onto the floor as she disappeared into light. Eli tried to climb after her. The water caught his legs and yanked. He slammed back into the steps, breath knocked out of him, fingers slipping from the railing. The flashlight clattered away into the dark. "No!" Cole shouted, twisting back. Rourke dove in without hesitation, grabbing Eli's hoodie and hauling with everything he had. Another man grabbed Rourke's belt. Someone else grabbed him. They came up in a tangle of bodies, gasping and coughing as the basement filled completely behind them. The door slammed shut just as the water hit the top step. For a moment, no one spoke. Maya lay on the concrete floor, coughing, sobbing, clutching at her father's vest with both hands. Cole wrapped her up in his arms, pressing his face into her hair, shaking so hard it hurt to watch. Eli sat against the wall, knees pulled up, chest heaving as water poured out of his clothes and pooled beneath him. His head throbbed where it had hit the concrete, vision swimming at the edges. Someone shoved a blanket around his shoulders. Another voice said, Kid, stay with me." Eli nodded once, not trusting his voice. Cole finally looked up. His eyes went to the boy without anyone pointing him out. For a long second, he just stared. At the soaked hoodie, the split sneakers abandoned by the door, the way Eli's hands shook even as he tried to hide it. You, Cole said, voice raw. You jumped. Eli shrugged weakly. She was there. Cole pushed himself up carefully, still holding Maya, and crossed the room in 3 steps. He stopped in front of Eli and did something no one expected. He dropped to one knee. His hand came down on Eli's shoulder, heavy, grounding, real. You saved my daughter, Cole said. Not loudly, not for anyone else, just for him. Eli swallowed hard. Cole shook his head. You stayed when the water came. The building creaked around them as floodwater rushed past outside, pounding the walls like it wanted back in. Sirens wailed somewhere in the distance, growing louder. Rourke wiped water from his face and looked at the ruined basement door. We need to get out of here. Whole foundation's compromised. Cole nodded. Yeah. He looked back at Eli. You coming with us? Eli blinked. You're not walking away from this, Cole said. Not tonight. Maya shifted in her father's arms and turned her head, eyes red and unfocused but aware. She looked at Eli, recognition flickering through fear. You're cold, she said softly. Eli tried to smile and failed. She reached out one hand and grabbed his sleeve, holding on the way she had in the water. Don't go, she whispered. Eli didn't answer. He didn't need to. Outside, the rain kept falling, relentless and loud, but inside the clubhouse something had changed. The flood had taken the basement, torn up walls, destroyed years of history. But it had left something behind. A boy who had stopped running, a girl who was alive because he did, and a line that, once crossed, could not be uncrossed again. The shock didn't come all at once. It spread slowly, like the cold had, seeping into places Eli didn't know could hurt. They moved fast once they were outside. The rain had turned the parking lot into a shallow river, water rushing past ankles, swirling around tires. Red and blue lights flashed at the far end of the road now, their reflections broken and jittery on the surface of the flood. Someone wrapped Maya in another blanket, then another. Someone else checked her breathing, her pulse, kept talking to her so she wouldn't drift. Cole Ransom never let go. He carried her like she might vanish if he loosened his grip, one arm locked around her back, the other braced under her knees. She clung to his vest, face buried in the leather, shaking but conscious, alive. Eli walked a step behind them. At least, he tried to. The world tilted every time he moved. His legs felt hollow, like they belonged to someone else. The headache behind his eyes pulsed with each heartbeat, sharp and nauseating. He focused on the ground in front of him, counting steps the way he had underwater. 1, 2, 3. A hand appeared in front of him suddenly, blocking his path. Hey, a man said. Same voice as before. Rourke. Easy. Eli stopped. The pause made his knees buckle. Rourke caught him before he hit the ground and guided him down onto the tailgate of a truck. Sit. Don't argue. Eli didn't have the strength to. Rain ran off his hair, down his face, into his eyes. He wiped it away with the back of his hand and tasted mud and copper. I'm fine, he muttered. Rourke snorted. Kid, nobody's fine after that. Across the lot, firefighters waded toward the building, ropes already unspooling from their shoulders. Someone shouted about the basement being fully submerged now. Another voice said the back wall was bowing. Eli watched the clubhouse like it was a living thing he'd wounded. He didn't regret the jump, but he felt the weight of it now. An EMT knelt in front of him, blocking his view. Name? Eli hesitated. Names had consequences. Eli, he said finally. Last name? He shook his head. Just Eli. The EMT studied him for a second, then nodded. All right, Eli, look at me. Eli did. The man's face was calm, practiced. Any pain? The EMT asked. My head, Eli said, and my chest. Did you hit anything? Eli nodded once. The stairs. Lose consciousness? I don't think so. The EMT shined a light in his eyes. Eli winced, but held still. Pupils look okay, the EMT said, more to himself than anyone else. You're going to the hospital. Eli's stomach clenched. I don't need... Not a discussion, the EMT said gently. You went under in floodwater. You took a hit. You're going. Eli's eyes flicked to Cole and Maya. Cole heard his name without it being said. He turned, eyes sharp despite the chaos, and walked back toward Eli, water sloshing around his boots. What's wrong? Cole demanded. Kid needs to get checked, the EMT said. Possible concussion, hypothermia. Eli opened his mouth to argue again. Cole cut him off. He goes. Eli stared at him. I can't. Cole crouched in front of him, blocking out the flashing lights, the rain, the noise. Listen to me, Cole said. His voice wasn't loud, but it didn't need to be. You don't get to disappear on me after that. Eli swallowed. I'm not trying to disappear. Cole's jaw tightened. Then let them help you. Eli looked past him at Maya. She had lifted her head from Cole's shoulder, eyes glassy but focused. She saw him on the tailgate and frowned. Why are you sitting? She asked. Eli tried to smile again, failed again. He's tired, Cole said. Maya tilted her head, studying him the way kids did when they sensed something adults were dancing around. You're shaking. Eli looked down at his hands. He hadn't noticed. She reached out one arm from her blanket, fingers searching until they found his sleeve again. She grabbed on, weak but determined. Don't go away, she said. Eli closed his eyes for a second. I'm not, he said quietly. I promise. The ambulance ride was short and loud. Sirens wailed, lights strobed against the ceiling, turning the inside of the vehicle into a pulsing red and white blur. Eli lay strapped to the gurney, blanket tucked tight around him, an oxygen mask hovering near his face that he kept pushing away. I can breathe, he muttered. Humor me, the EMT said, adjusting it anyway. Floodwater dripped off Eli's clothes and pooled on the floor. His shoes were gone. No one mentioned it. The doors slammed shut. The world narrowed to the steady beeping of a monitor and the ache in his skull. He drifted in and out, fragments of thought breaking loose and floating away. The basement stairs, Maya's jacket in his hand, the way the water had tried to pull them both back. Each time he came back to himself, he expected to be alone. He wasn't. Cole sat on a fold-down seat near the gurney, elbows on his knees, helmet in his hands. He looked soaked, exhausted, older than he had an hour ago. You didn't have to come, Eli said hoarsely. Cole didn't look up. Yes, I did. Silence filled the space between sirens. Why? Eli asked. Cole finally met his eyes. Because my daughter's alive. Eli turned his head away, staring at the ceiling. Anyone would have done it. Cole's expression hardened. No, they wouldn't. The hospital was chaos, flood victims, injuries, mud everywhere. The smell of wet clothes and disinfectant layered thick in the air. Eli was wheeled through it all, voices overlapping, hands moving him without asking. They put him in a small room with a curtain instead of a door. A nurse took his vitals. A doctor asked questions. He answered most of them. Some he didn't know how to. How long have you been on the street? The doctor asked casually, not unkindly. Eli shrugged. A while. The doctor paused, pen hovering. Do you have a guardian? Eli opened his mouth. Cole answered. I'm here. The doctor glanced between them. Sir? I'm here, Cole repeated. The doctor nodded slowly. Are you all right? Eli stared at Cole after they were alone again. You don't know me, Eli said. Cole sat down in the chair beside the bed. I know you jumped. It's enough for now, Cole said. Eli laughed weakly. You're wrong. Cole leaned back, studying him. You ever notice how people who've been running a long time don't believe in for now? Eli didn't answer. Down the hall, Maya's voice echoed faintly, higher now, steadier. Someone laughed softly in response. Cole closed his eyes for a moment at the sound. They're keeping her overnight, he said. Observation. But she's okay. Eli nodded. Good. Cole hesitated, then added, They want to talk to you too. Police, social worker. Eli's chest tightened. I don't want trouble. Cole's gaze sharpened. You didn't cause it. That's not how it works. Cole leaned forward. Maybe it's time it didn't. The flood had taken the basement. The night had taken something else from Eli, his ability to pretend this was just another place he could slip through unnoticed. As he lay there, head pounding, clothes drying stiff against his skin, he realized something that scared him more than the water ever had. He had been seen, and once you were seen, you didn't get to decide what stayed invisible anymore. The questions didn't come all at once. They waited. That was what made them dangerous. Eli learned that lying in the hospital bed with stiff clothes clinging to his skin and a dull ache spreading behind his eyes. Machines beeped softly beside him. Somewhere down the hall, a child cried, the sound thin and exhausted, like the building itself was tired of holding pain. A nurse came in first, older, calm. She checked his temperature, his pulse, shined a light into his eyes again. You're lucky, she said. Floodwater like that doesn't forgive mistakes. Eli didn't answer. Luck had never been part of his vocabulary. She hesitated before writing something down. Do you have somewhere safe to go when you're discharged? Eli opened his mouth. Cole answered from the chair beside the bed. He's with us. The nurse paused, eyes flicking between them. She didn't argue. She just nodded and left the room quietly. Eli stared at the ceiling once they were alone again. You shouldn't say that. Cole didn't look at him. I know exactly what I'm saying. You don't know what they'll do, Eli said. They'll ask things. They'll decide things. Cole turned then, expression hard in a way Eli hadn't seen yet. Not angry, protective. They already are, Cole said, and they were doing it long before you jumped. Eli swallowed. I don't want trouble. Cole leaned back in his chair. You ever notice trouble doesn't ask what you want? A knock sounded at the curtain. Officer Reynolds stepped in, jacket damp from rain, hat tucked under his arm. He looked like a man who hadn't slept and didn't expect to anytime soon. Eli, he said, mind if we talk? Eli's stomach tightened. Do I have to? Reynolds glanced at Cole, then back to Eli. I'll keep it short. Cole stood. I'll stay. Reynolds nodded. Good. He didn't pull out a notepad right away. He sat on the edge of the counter instead, posture relaxed, voice steady. Tell me what happened, he said, from your side. Eli stared at the floor for a long moment. He had told versions of his story before, careful ones, incomplete ones, stories shaped to get through a door or out of a room. This one felt different. She was down there, Eli said finally. The water was already coming in. I heard her. Reynolds waited. I didn't think about it, Eli continued. I just went. Reynolds nodded slowly. Anyone tell you to? Eli shook his head. No. Anyone force you? No. Why didn't you wait for help? Eli's jaw tightened. There wasn't time. Reynolds studied him carefully. You understand that puts you at risk. Eli laughed once, weak and humorless. Everything does. Reynolds didn't smile. He looked at Cole instead. He didn't hesitate. Cole nodded. No, he didn't. Reynolds stood. That's all I needed. As he left, he paused at the curtain. Social services will want to talk to you, both of you. Eli's chest tightened. I know, Reynolds said gently. But that doesn't mean you don't have a voice. The doctor came next, then another nurse. Eli answered questions, submitted to tests, let himself be prodded and scanned and evaluated like a thing that needed explaining. Each time someone asked about guardians, Cole answered, and each time no one challenged him. Maya came to see him that evening. She was wheeled in by a nurse, bundled in blankets, her hair still damp at the ends but brushed neatly back. A faint bruise bloomed along her jaw where the water had thrown her against something solid. Her eyes were tired but alert. She spotted Eli immediately. You're here, she said. Eli pushed himself up on one elbow. Yeah, she frowned. You look bad. He smiled crookedly. You should see the other guy. She studied him for a moment, then nodded, satisfied. You didn't leave. No, Eli said, I didn't. She reached out, fingers curling around the edge of his blanket, grounding herself. Daddy said you went under the water again. Eli glanced at Cole. Cole's expression softened. Just a little, Eli said. Maya frowned. That was dumb. He laughed, surprised by the sound. Yeah? She yawned, eyelids drooping. You're not allowed to disappear. Eli's throat tightened. I'll try not to. When she was wheeled away again, the room felt emptier than before. Cole stayed. The hours stretched. Night deepened outside the windows, rain easing into a steady whisper against glass. Eli drifted in and out of sleep, waking each time expecting to find himself alone. He never was. At some point past midnight, a woman came in wearing a county badge and a tired expression. She introduced herself quietly, pulled a chair close to the bed. I'm Karen Hughes, she said. Child Services. Eli tensed. Cole straightened. I'm here. Karen nodded. I can see that. She looked at Eli. I need to ask you a few questions. You don't have to answer anything you're not comfortable with. Eli swallowed. People always say that. Karen didn't deny it. I'm not here to take you anywhere tonight. That helped. A little. Do you have family? She asked. Eli shook his head. Anyone you stay with? No. Shelters? Sometimes. Karen wrote something down, then paused. How long have you been on your own? Eli stared at the ceiling. Long enough, Karen sighed softly. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. She studied him for a moment, then closed her notebook. What you did tonight matters, she said, but it doesn't erase the rest. Eli nodded. I know. She glanced at Cole. And you? Cole met her gaze. I'm not sending him back out there. Karen's expression was careful. This won't be simple. Cole didn't blink. I didn't expect it to be. She stood. We'll talk more tomorrow. After she left, silence settled heavy in the room. Eli finally spoke. You don't have to do this. Cole rubbed his face with one hand. You ever try not doing something that already happened? Eli frowned. You jumped, Cole said. That line's crossed. Eli's voice was quiet. Lines get crossed all the time. Not like that, Cole replied. Not without someone paying attention. Eli lay back, staring at the ceiling again. His body ached, his head throbbed. But beneath it all, something else stirred, something heavier than fear. Expectation. Morning would come, questions would come, decisions would be made. For the first time in a long time, Eli wouldn't be able to slip away before they did. The flood had taken the basement, but it had pulled him into the light with it, and there was no going back to the dark now. The morning after the flood felt unreal. Sunlight filtered through the hospital blinds, pale and hesitant, touching the edge of Eli's bed like it wasn't sure it belonged there. The rain had stopped sometime before dawn, leaving the world scrubbed clean in a way that didn't match how anything inside him felt. Eli woke to the sound of quiet voices, not arguing, not urgent, controlled. He kept his eyes closed, listening the way he always had, piecing together meaning before showing himself. Years of moving between places had taught him that waking up was often the most dangerous part of the day. Foundation's shot, Rourke was saying somewhere near the door. Basement's a total loss. Insurance can wait, Cole replied. His voice was rough but steady. My kid's alive. That's not what I'm worried about, Karen Hughes said. I'm worried about what happens to the other one. Eli opened his eyes. Karen stood near the foot of the bed, arms folded loosely, jacket draped over the back of a chair. She looked like someone who'd slept in her car and hated herself a little for it. Cole stood beside her, arms crossed, planted like he wasn't going anywhere. Rourke leaned against the wall, silent, watchful. The other one's awake, Eli said hoarsely. All three turned. Karen sighed softly. Good morning, Eli. He pushed himself up, head throbbing in protest. If you're here to take me somewhere, just say it. Cole took a step forward. No one's taking you anywhere today. Karen held up a hand. That's not entirely true. Eli's jaw tightened. There it is. Karen met his gaze without flinching. You went through floodwater. You were injured. You're a minor with no registered guardian. I can't ignore that. Eli looked at Cole. See? Cole didn't back down. You're not putting him back on the street. I'm not, Karen said carefully, but I can't pretend this is simple either. Eli swung his legs off the bed, the movement making the room tilt for a second. Rourke stepped closer instinctively, but Eli stayed upright. Simple's not real, Eli said. I know. Karen studied him for a long moment. Do you know what happens next if we follow protocol? Eli shrugged. Temporary placement, shelter, questions, maybe foster, maybe not. Cole's jaw clenched. And if we don't? Eli added. Karen exhaled. Then I need to justify why. Cole stepped in before she could continue. Then justify it. Karen looked at him sharply. You're asking me to stake my job on a decision made in a flooded basement. Cole didn't blink. I'm asking you to stake it on a kid who jumped into moving water to save my daughter. Silence settled. From the doorway, a small voice broke it. Daddy? Maya stood there in a wheelchair, bundled in a sweatshirt too big for her, hair still damp at the ends. A nurse hovered behind her, ready to intervene, but Maya didn't look scared. She looked focused. Cole turned instantly. Hey, baby, she wheeled herself closer, eyes flicking from Cole to Eli to Karen. Why does he look like he's in trouble? Eli swallowed. I'm not, Maya frowned. You sound like you are. Karen crouched in front of her. Sweetheart, we're just talking. Maya tilted her head. Talking is what people do before they move someone. Karen hesitated. Maya turned her attention fully to Eli. Are you going away? Eli opened his mouth. Cole spoke first. No. Karen's head snapped up. Cole, Maya cut her off. He didn't leave me. You can't make him leave. The nurse shifted uncomfortably. Karen closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them again. Maya, sometimes adults have to make decisions that kids don't like. Maya's voice stayed calm. Sometimes adults make mistakes. The words landed harder than shouting would have. Karen straightened slowly. You're very articulate. I had a lot of time to think, Maya replied. In the water. Eli felt his chest tighten. Karen stood and looked at Cole. You're offering temporary supervision? Yes, Cole said immediately. Under what conditions? She pressed. Cole didn't hesitate. Whatever it takes. Karen considered that. Home checks, school enrollment, medical follow-up, and no disappearing. Eli laughed once, sharp and humorless. That last one's funny. Karen met his eyes. I'm not joking. Neither was he. She took out her notebook and wrote for a long time, longer than necessary. 48 hours, she said finally. Temporary emergency placement. After that, we reassess. Cole nodded. Done. Eli stared at her. That's it? Karen shook her head. No, that's the beginning. The discharge took longer than expected. Paperwork, signatures, a clean pair of shoes someone found that almost fit, a hoodie that didn't smell like floodwater. Eli moved through it all like someone watching himself from a distance. When they finally stepped outside, the air felt wrong, too clean, too normal. The parking lot was crowded, not with reporters, with bikes. They were lined up neatly, engines off, chrome still splattered with mud from the flood. Men and women stood beside them, quiet, hands in pockets, arms folded. No patches displayed prominently, no one trying to look intimidating. They were just there. Eli stopped short. Rourke glanced at him. You didn't think they'd leave, did you? Eli swallowed. I didn't think about it. Cole put a hand on his shoulder, not heavy, not claiming, just there. You don't have to impress anyone. Maya smiled when she heard the low murmur of engines cooling. They sound like they're waiting. They are, Rourke said. The ride away from the hospital was slow. Maya rode in the truck with Cole, blanket pulled up under her chin, eyes half closed but alert. Eli sat in the back seat staring out the window as the city slid by. Every turn felt like a choice. The clubhouse looked worse in daylight. Water stains climbed the walls. The basement door was sealed off with tape and warning signs. Mud marked the floor where floodwater had reached. Eli stood in the doorway, unsure. This isn't your fault, Cole said, reading the hesitation. I know, Eli replied. He didn't sound convinced. They settled Maya on the couch upstairs, dry clothes, warm soup, too many pillows. She fell asleep almost immediately, exhaustion finally winning. Downstairs, Karen lingered. This is temporary, she reminded Cole quietly. Don't mistake it for a promise. Cole nodded. I won't. She turned to Eli. You okay staying here? Eli looked around the room, at the bikes, the tools, the people pretending not to watch him too closely. I'll try, he said. Karen studied him. That's all anyone can ask? When she left, the room exhaled. Rourke clapped Eli lightly on the shoulder. You hungry? Eli realized he was starving. Later, as evening crept in and the day finally loosened its grip, Eli sat on the steps outside, the road stretching quiet and damp in front of him. Cole joined him, handing him a bottle of water. You can still leave, Cole said, if you want. Eli stared at the road. I don't want to go back to running. Cole nodded. Then don't. Eli took a slow breath. The flood had taken the basement. It had shaken walls and ripped history loose. But it had also dragged something else to the surface, a boy who stayed, a man who noticed, and a choice that could no longer be undone. The first night back at the clubhouse didn't feel like shelter. It felt like a test. Eli noticed it in the small things, the way the building settled as temperatures dropped, the unfamiliar quiet of people trying not to hover, the way every door closing sounded final, even when it wasn't. He sat on the edge of a couch with a bowl of soup cooling in his hands, steam rising and fading between breaths. He hadn't changed position in 10 minutes. No one told him to move. No one told him to relax. That almost made it worse. Across the room, Cole spoke quietly with Rourke and 2 other club members, not whispering, just low enough that the words stayed private. Eli didn't strain to hear. He didn't need to. He recognized the tone, logistics, risk, next steps. Maya slept upstairs, exhausted, her breathing finally deep and steady. That was the only reason Eli hadn't bolted yet. He told himself that. You're not eating. Eli looked up. Cole stood a few feet away, hands in his pockets, posture careful. I will, Eli said. He didn't. Cole nodded like he'd expected that answer. Mind if I sit? Eli shrugged. It's your couch. Cole sat anyway, leaving a small but intentional gap between them, not crowding, not distant. Karen called again, Cole said. Eli's stomach tightened. Already? She's covering herself, Cole replied. Paper trail, home check tomorrow, school enrollment questions. Eli stared into the soup. I don't go to school. You will, Cole said, if you stay. There it was. If. Eli set the bowl down carefully on the table in front of him. You don't know how long I stay in places. Cole didn't argue. I know how long kids like you usually don't. That landed heavier than it should have. The room shifted as the night went on. Some bikes rolled out, others stayed. Coffee replaced soup. Someone turned on a radio low, just enough to break the silence without filling it. Eli eventually stood, stretching stiff legs, unsure where he was supposed to go now that he wasn't actively being saved. You can take the back room, Rourke said casually, like it was no big thing. Door locks from the inside. That made Eli pause. Why? Rourke shrugged. Because sometimes people need a door. Eli nodded once. The room was small. A cot, a chair, a light that buzzed faintly when he flipped it on. The walls were bare except for an old calendar that hadn't been updated in years. He locked the door, then unlocked it, then locked it again. Sleep came in pieces. Short, shallow stretches broken by dreams of water closing over his head, of hands slipping away, of darkness pressing in from all sides. He woke before dawn, heart racing, convinced for one sharp second that he was back under the stairs. He wasn't. The air was still, dry, quiet. He sat up and waited for the urge to run. It didn't come. That scared him more than the dreams. By morning, the clubhouse smelled like coffee and motor oil again, a kind of normalcy that felt almost insulting. Karen arrived just after 9. No sirens, no announcement, just a county sedan crunching gravel and a woman stepping out with a clipboard and a tight expression. Eli watched from the doorway as Cole greeted her. "Morning," Cole said. "Is it?" Karen replied. They walked through the building together. She noted exits, fire extinguishers, sleeping arrangements. Eli stayed where he was, arms crossed, braced for the part where someone pointed at him like a problem. Karen stopped in front of him. "Did you sleep?" she asked. Eli nodded. "Some." "Eat?" He hesitated. "Not yet," she made a note. "We'll work on that." He frowned. "You always say that." Karen met his eyes. "Sometimes we actually do." They went upstairs next. Maya was awake, sitting up in bed with a book open on her lap, her injured leg propped on pillows. She looked up as they entered. "Hi," she said. Karen smiled despite herself. "Good morning." Maya tilted her head, listening. "You're the lady who doesn't like mistakes." Karen blinked. "Is that what you think?" Maya nodded. "You talk like everything needs to fit." Karen knelt slightly to be closer to her eye level. "Sometimes it does. And sometimes it doesn't," Maya said calmly. "I didn't fit in the water." Silence followed. Karen stood slowly. "You're right," she said. "You didn't." That was the first time Eli saw doubt cross her face. The inspection ended without incident. No raised voices, no ultimatums, just notes and reminders and a timeline that stretched further than Eli liked to think about. Before she left, Karen stopped by the back door where Eli stood watching the road. "This isn't forever," she said. "One way or another." Eli didn't respond. Cole waited until her car was gone before speaking. "You okay?" Eli nodded automatically, then shook his head. "I don't know." "That's an honest answer," Cole said. The afternoon passed with work. Real work. Rourke handed Eli a rag and pointed to a bike with a stripped chain. "Clean that." Eli did. He didn't know why it mattered, but he focused on the task anyway. The metal responded to attention. Dirt came off. Parts fit where they were supposed to. It felt controllable. Maya came down later, moving slowly but stubbornly on her injured leg. She sat on a stool and watched him work. "You're good with your hands," she said. Eli shrugged. "Stuff either works or it doesn't," she smiled. "People too." He paused. "They're harder." "Yeah," she agreed. "But you stayed." That phrase again, it followed him all day. By evening, Eli felt it, the shift from emergency to expectation, from thank you to now what. That was always the dangerous part. He found Cole outside by the bikes, staring down the road like it might answer something. "If I leave," Eli said suddenly, "does this get easier for you?" Cole didn't turn right away. "Maybe. And if I stay?" Cole finally looked at him. "Then we do the harder thing." Eli's jaw tightened. "Why choose that?" Cole's voice was quiet. "Because my daughter sleeps at night again." Eli looked away, throat burning. "I don't know how to be this," he said, "whatever this is." Cole nodded. "Neither did I, the first time I stopped riding away from problems." Eli let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. The sun dipped low, shadows stretching across the lot. Engines cooled, doors closed. Life slowed into something manageable. For the first time since the flood, Eli realized he wasn't waiting for someone to tell him to leave. He was waiting to decide if he wanted to stay. And that decision, terrifying, heavy, real, was his. Not the system's, not the storm's, his. The pressure changed shape after that. It stopped feeling like something outside the clubhouse and started feeling like something woven into the day itself. Not loud, not obvious, just present enough that Eli couldn't forget it even when he tried. He woke early again, before the sun, the room dim and quiet. The urge to check the door came back, muscle memory, sharp and familiar. He reached for the lock, then stopped halfway. The door was still there, locked if he wanted it, unlocked if he didn't. That choice sat with him longer than it should have. Downstairs, the building was already awake. Coffee brewed, tools clinked. Someone laughed softly at something that wasn't funny enough to repeat. Eli moved through it all like he was learning a new language, same sounds, different meanings. Rourke handed him a wrench without explanation. "Hold this." Eli did. He watched closely as Rourke adjusted the chain, noting how he listened before he tightened, how he didn't force anything into place. When it was done, Rourke nodded once and moved on. No praise, no test, just work continuing. That was when the first call came. Not to Cole, to Eli. His name, echoed from the office doorway. "Eli," Karen called. "Phone." His stomach dropped. Cole looked up immediately. "You don't have to take it." Eli shook his head. "If I don't, it gets worse." Karen held the receiver out, her expression unreadable. "It's your case manager, from before." From before. The words dragged him backward. Shelter cots, intake forms, voices that used his name like a file number. He took the phone anyway. "Eli," a woman said briskly, "we've been trying to reach you." "I know," he replied. "Are you safe?" Eli hesitated, then, "Yes." "Where are you?" He glanced at the garage, the bikes, the people who pretended not to listen but didn't leave. "Somewhere stable." A pause. "That's vague." "So is temporary," Eli said quietly. Another pause, longer this time. "We have concerns," the woman said, "about the influence of adults around you." Eli's grip tightened on the receiver. "They didn't tell me to jump." Silence. "We'll be requesting an update from Child Services," she said. "In person." "When?" Eli asked. "Soon." The line went dead. Eli stood there holding the phone long after the sound disappeared. Karen didn't take it back. "You okay?" He nodded, then shook his head. "They're not done." Karen sighed. "No, they're just careful." Maya came down the stairs later that morning, moving slowly but without help, her injured leg stiff but steady. She paused when she saw Eli's face. "You heard a voice you didn't like," she said. He blinked. "How do you—" "You went quiet," she replied. "Quiet like when people decide things without asking." Eli sat on the steps and rubbed his hands together, trying to ground himself. "I don't want this to turn into a tug of war." Maya sat beside him. "Then stop letting them pull." He laughed softly. "That's not how it works." She frowned. "That's how it worked for me." He looked at her. "You didn't have a choice." "Yes, I did," she said. "I held on." The words hit harder than any argument. By afternoon, the clubhouse had visitors, not officials, not media, parents, a woman with a toddler on her hip, a man with grease under his nails and a worried crease between his brows. They stood awkwardly near the entrance, unsure if they belonged. Cole greeted them calmly. "Can I help you?" The man cleared his throat. "Heard what happened. The flood." The woman nodded. "And the boy." Eli felt his shoulders tense. "We just wanted to say thank you," she said, eyes flicking to Eli. "My daughter was scared of storms for years. If someone hadn't stayed with her once—" "I don't know." Eli didn't know what to say. They didn't stay long. They didn't ask questions. They left quietly, the way people do when they don't want to turn gratitude into debt. But their presence lingered. That night, Eli couldn't sit still. He paced the edge of the lot, the road dark and open beyond the gate. Headlights passed in the distance, each one tempting in its own way. He could walk. He knew how. He always had. Cole joined him without comment. "They'll keep coming," Eli said. "Calls, visits, pressure." Cole nodded. "Yes? And if they decide I'm too much trouble?" Cole looked out at the road. "Then they'll have to say it out loud." Eli frowned. "Why does that matter?" "Because silence is how people disappear," Cole said. "And I'm done letting that happen." Eli swallowed. "What if I'm not?" Cole turned to him. "Then you tell me." Eli hesitated. "I don't want to be the reason Maya grows up in courtrooms." Cole's jaw tightened. "She already grew up in a basement full of water." Eli flinched. You didn't put her there, Cole continued. You got her out. They stood in silence, the road breathing in front of them. The next morning brought confirmation. Karen arrived with another woman this time, older, sharper, carrying authority like a coat she'd worn too long. This is Ms. Alvarez, Karen said. State review. Eli felt his pulse spike. They sat at the table. Papers came out. Questions followed. How long have you been transient? Why didn't you seek help sooner? Do you understand the risks you took? Eli answered what he could. Then Ms. Alvarez asked the question he'd been dreading. Why did you jump? Eli looked at her, then at Karen, then at Cole. Because she was there, he said. That's not an answer, Ms. Alvarez replied. It is, Eli said, voice steady now. It's just not a comfortable one. Ms. Alvarez studied him for a long moment. Comfort isn't the goal. Neither is safety, Eli said quietly. Not if it costs someone else. Silence filled the room. Maya spoke from the doorway. He's not loud, she said, but he stays. Ms. Alvarez turned slowly. And you are? Maya Ransom, she replied, the one who was in the basement. That ended the interview. Ms. Alvarez closed her folder. We'll review, she said, thoroughly. When they left, the room felt heavier, but also clearer. Eli sank into a chair. I don't know how long I can do this, Cole sat across from him. You don't have to know, Eli rubbed his face. I don't want to be brave anymore. Cole nodded. Good. Bravery runs out. Then what's left? Cole's voice was quiet. Choice. That night, Eli didn't go to the back room. He sat on the steps with Maya, the sky stretched wide above them. If they make you leave, Maya said, I'll remember you. Eli smiled faintly. That's worse than them making me leave, she smiled back. Good. The road lay open, unchanged, but Eli didn't move toward it. He stayed where he was, tired, uncertain, very much seen. And for the first time, he understood something that scared him more than running ever had. Staying wasn't about courage anymore. It was about refusing to let someone else decide the ending. The escalation came quietly, not with raised voices or official letters taped to doors, but with movement, the kind you only noticed if you'd spent years learning how to read rooms before they turned dangerous. Eli felt it that afternoon when Rourke locked the front gate for the first time since the flood. No announcement, no explanation, just the metallic click of the chain sliding into place. Why's that locked? Eli asked, trying to keep his voice neutral. Rourke didn't look at him as he secured it. Because sometimes people don't knock. That answer sat wrong. Inside, the clubhouse felt tighter, not tense, focused. Phones were out more than usual. Conversations stayed short. No one joked. No one asked Eli to help with anything, which was worse than being watched. Cole noticed before Eli said anything. They're coming back, Cole said quietly, standing beside him near the workbench. Not today, not like last time. Eli nodded. They're waiting for something. For you to crack, Rourke added from across the room, or for me to. Maya was upstairs, resting, her leg elevated, headphones on, but the volume low. She always kept it low now. Eli had noticed that too. You leaving again? She asked when he brought her soup. No, he said. Just checking on you. She tilted her head. You sound like you're standing still. He smiled faintly. Yeah. That evening, the call finally came. Not to Eli, not to Cole, to Maya's mother. She arrived an hour later, breathless and pale, rain still clinging to her jacket even though it hadn't rained in hours. They called me, she said, voice tight. State. They said I need to think about what environment I want my daughter exposed to long term. Eli felt his chest hollow out. Cole's jaw tightened. They're pressuring you. She nodded. They didn't say it outright. They never do. But it was clear. Maya listened from the stairs. Are they trying to make you scared of him? She asked. Her mother froze. No, she said too quickly. Maya didn't argue. She just nodded once. Then they already failed. Eli stepped back instinctively. You don't have to do this, he said to her mother. You can tell them whatever makes this easier. She looked at him then. Really looked at him. Not as a symbol, not as a complication, as a kid. They're counting on you to disappear, she said. That's the part I can't live with. That night, a car parked across the road. Not the county sedan, not the black one from before. Something else. Unmarked. Engine idling. Lights off. Eli saw it first. He didn't point it out right away. He waited, watched, counted the minutes the engine stayed on. Cole, he said finally. Someone's there. Cole stepped outside, slow and deliberate, stopping just short of the gate. He didn't confront the car, he didn't wave, he just stood there. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Finally, the car pulled away. Rourke exhaled. Message received. Eli's hands were shaking. "Hey," Cole said, turning back to him. "You don't have to carry this alone." Eli laughed once, brittle. "Feels like I already am." Cole shook his head. "No, you're just not used to people standing with you." That night, Eli didn't sleep, not because of fear, but because of decision. He sat on the steps until dawn, watching the road breathe in and out under passing headlights, thinking about how easy it would be to slip away before sunrise. No scene, no goodbye, just absence. That was what they wanted. When the sun came up, he was still there. Karen arrived mid-morning, alone this time. She didn't sit down. "They're pushing hard," she said, "above my level." Eli didn't flinch. "I know," she studied him. "You could make this stop." Eli nodded. "By leaving." "Yes." "And then what?" he asked. "They find another kid." Karen didn't answer. Cole stepped forward. "What are our options?" Karen exhaled. "Formal hearing, full review, public record." Eli felt the weight of that land. "And if we win?" Cole asked. Karen met his gaze. "Then they lose the ability to pretend this is about procedure." Silence filled the room. Maya broke it from the stairs. "Do it." Everyone turned. "If they don't like looking at what they're doing," she said calmly, "make them look longer." Karen closed her eyes briefly. "You're not supposed to be this brave." Maya shrugged. "I had a good teacher." Eli swallowed hard. The decision was made without ceremony. Paperwork spread across the table, phone calls placed, dates set. The road outside didn't change, but something inside Eli did. That night, as the clubhouse settled into an uneasy calm, Rourke handed Eli a clean jacket. Heavy, worn, a club patch stitched inside, not on display, not public. "Not a claim," Rourke said, "just a sign you're not alone." Eli stared at it. "You don't have to wear it," Rourke added. Eli took it anyway. Later, he stood outside with Cole again, the road stretching long and uncertain in front of them. "You scared?" Cole asked. Eli nodded. "Yeah." "Good," Cole said. "Means you're still choosing." Eli pulled the jacket tighter around himself and looked down the road, not as an escape this time, but as a witness to what was coming. They wanted him to vanish. Instead, he was about to make them look directly at him. And that was the real stand. The hearing didn't feel like a showdown. It felt like a slow tightening. Eli understood that the moment he stepped into the building with Cole beside him and realized there were no cameras waiting, no raised voices, no obvious villain standing in the hall. Just beige walls, bad lighting, and a clock that ticked too loud for a place where people decided futures. They sat at a long table that had been scratched smooth by years of elbows and paperwork. Karen was there, folders stacked neatly in front of her. Ms. Alvarez sat across the room, posture straight, expression unreadable. A county attorney flipped through documents without looking at anyone long enough to be human. Maya wasn't allowed in the room. That was the hardest part. She waited in the hallway with her mother, headphones around her neck, fingers worrying the zipper of her jacket. Eli caught one last glimpse of her before the door closed, calm, alert, listening. He drew a slow breath. This was the part where people talked about him like he wasn't there. And they did. They talked about risk assessments, about precedent, about environments and exposure and optics. Words stacked on words until Eli felt himself flattening under them, becoming an idea instead of a person. He kept his hands folded in his lap, nails pressing into his palms to remind himself he still had edges. Then someone asked him to speak, not politely, not warmly. Just, "Eli, you may respond." He looked at Karen first. She gave a barely perceptible nod. Eli stood. The chair scraped loudly against the floor. The sound echoed more than it should have. He felt every eye in the room settle on him, waiting for something rehearsed or emotional or broken. He gave them none of it. "I don't know what words you want," he said. His voice was steady, which surprised him. "I know what I did." The county attorney raised an eyebrow. "This isn't about heroics." Eli nodded. "I know. That's why I'm not talking about that." He paused, choosing his next words carefully, not to impress, but to stay honest. "I ran most of my life," he continued, "because it worked. If you don't stay anywhere long enough, no one can decide things about you." Ms. Alvarez leaned forward slightly. "That night," Eli said, "I stayed. Not because it was brave, because leaving would have been worse. Silence settled. You're asking me why I didn't wait, Eli went on, why I didn't think about consequences. The truth is, I thought about them later. In the water, all I knew was she was there. He stopped. No dramatic ending, no appeal, just that. The judge, older, tired, eyes sharp in a way that came from seeing too many versions of the same story, folded her hands. Sit down, she said gently. Eli did. The rest unfolded without him being asked to perform again. Cole spoke once, not loudly, not emotionally. She sleeps, he said. My daughter sleeps through the night now. If that doesn't matter here, then nothing does. Karen spoke after that, carefully, clearly, not to protect her job, but to protect the truth. When the decision came, it didn't sound like victory. Temporary guardianship extended, the judge said, subject to continued review. Extended. Not permanent, not fragile either. Enough. Outside, the sky had turned overcast again, clouds hanging low but not threatening rain. The world looked like it was holding its breath. Eli stepped into the hallway first. Maya found him by sound, alone. You're still here, she said. He smiled, the tension in his chest finally loosening. Yeah. Her mother hugged him without asking permission this time. Not tight, just real. Thank you, she said, for not disappearing. Eli didn't answer. He didn't need to. Back at the clubhouse, the bikes were already lined up, not as a statement, not as a threat. Just waiting. Rourke handed Eli a bottle of water. You did fine. Eli shook his head. I didn't do anything, Rourke snorted. Exactly. That night the building felt different, not safe, not settled, but honest. Eli sat on the steps with Cole as dusk crept in, the road stretching long and quiet in front of them. You know they're not done, Cole said. Eli nodded. I know. And you still stayed. Eli watched a car pass in the distance, headlights flaring briefly before fading away. I'm tired of letting other people decide when I vanish. Cole smiled faintly. Good. Inside, Maya laughed at something on the radio. The sound drifted out through the open door, light and unafraid. Eli leaned back against the railing, eyes on the road. It wasn't asking him to run anymore. It was waiting to see what he'd do next. The quiet after the hearing didn't last. It never did. Eli felt it before anyone said a word. Back at the clubhouse, sitting at the long table with a plate of food he hadn't touched. The air was heavier again, not with fear this time, but with consequence. Winning space always created pressure somewhere else. Cole noticed him staring at nothing. You're thinking again, Cole said. Eli shrugged, trying not to. Cole sat across from him. You don't have to pretend this didn't change things. Eli finally looked up. That's what scares me. The official decision filtered through the system faster than expected. Karen called first, voice controlled but tired. The extension triggered a secondary review, she said. Standard procedure. Eli snorted softly. Nothing about this feels standard. Karen didn't disagree. They want to look at long-term placement options, school, documentation, medical history. Eli stiffened. I don't have half of that. We'll reconstruct what we can, she said. But you need to understand something. Eli waited. The story is shifting, Karen continued. It's not just about a rescue anymore. It's about responsibility. Cole leaned forward. Meaning? Meaning people are asking why a runaway boy was the only one fast enough to act, Karen said, and what that says about everyone else. That landed harder than any threat. After the call ended, the room went quiet. They're trying to flip this, Rourke said from the doorway. Make it about you being a problem instead of a warning sign. Eli rubbed his hands together, knuckles still scraped from concrete and water. I didn't ask for that. Cole shook his head. You didn't have to. That afternoon, Eli went with Cole to see the basement for the first time since the flood. The door was sealed now, boards screwed in place, warning tape stretched across it like a scar. Mud stained the walls halfway up. The smell of wet concrete still lingered. Eli stood at the top of the stairs, staring down into the dark. This is where it happened, he said quietly. Cole nodded. Yeah. Eli swallowed. I don't remember deciding to jump. Cole leaned against the wall beside him. You don't always decide. Sometimes you just don't refuse. Eli looked at him. That's worse. Cole gave a faint smile. Usually is. They left the basement behind without ceremony. The next blow came from an unexpected direction. A letter arrived addressed to Maya's mother. Not threatening, not official, just careful. It suggested counseling, suggested distance, suggested that Maya's attachment to Eli might complicate her recovery. Maya's mother read it twice, then handed it to Cole without a word. Eli saw the look on her face and knew before anyone explained. "She's not scared of me," Eli said. "I know," Maya's mother replied. "That's why they're worried." Maya overheard everything from the stairs. "They think I'm broken," she said flatly. Cole turned. "No one said that." "They don't have to," Maya replied. "They think I don't know what I'm holding on to." She looked at Eli. "They're wrong." Eli felt his chest tighten. "You don't have to defend me," Maya frowned. "You didn't have to jump." Silence followed. That night, Eli packed his bag. Not carefully, not dramatically, just methodically. The few things he owned fit easily: clothes, a notebook, the hoodie he'd worn the night of the flood. Cole found him at the doorway. "You leaving?" Cole asked. Eli didn't look up. "Thinking about it." Cole crossed his arms. "Why now?" "Because this keeps spreading," Eli said. "First the basement, then the hearing. Now Maya. I don't want her growing up thinking she has to fight because of me." Cole studied him for a long moment. "You think leaving makes this cleaner?" Eli hesitated. "It makes it quieter." Cole shook his head. "Quiet isn't the same as clean." Eli finally met his gaze. "Then what am I supposed to do?" Cole answered without raising his voice. "Stay long enough for them to say the quiet part out loud." Eli laughed bitterly. "And if they do?" "Then it's not about you anymore," Cole said. "It's about who they're willing to protect." Maya appeared in the hallway, crutches tapping softly against the floor. "You packed," she said. Eli nodded. "Just in case." She moved closer, stopping a few feet away. "Do you know what it sounded like when you jumped?" Eli shook his head. "It wasn't loud," she said. "It was fast, like someone deciding before the water could." She tilted her head. "If you leave now, it'll be loud." Eli closed his eyes. Slowly, he set the bag down. The next day, the school question came up. Karen arrived with forms, real ones this time, enrollment, assessments, schedules. Eli stared at the papers like they were written in another language. "I haven't been in a classroom in years," he said. Karen nodded. "We'll start slow." Maya smiled faintly. "I can help." Eli huffed. "You hate math." "I hate bad math," she corrected. Cole watched them, something heavy easing in his chest. That afternoon, the black sedan came back, parked at the edge of the road, engine off, windows tinted. No one approached it. No one needed to. Eli stood at the gate beside Cole and Rourke, hands at his sides, shoulders squared, not defiant, not afraid. "They want me to blink," Eli said. Cole nodded. "Then don't." The car stayed for 10 minutes, then 15. Finally, it pulled away. That evening, Eli sat alone on the steps, watching the road darken. The urge to run was still there, but it was quieter now, smaller. He understood something he hadn't before. Leaving wouldn't erase what happened. Staying wouldn't either, but staying meant the truth had to keep existing, and that somehow felt like the right price to pay. He didn't move. Not when the lights came on, not when voices drifted out behind him, not when the road stretched open and empty. For the first time, Eli wasn't waiting for permission. He was waiting for the story to finish catching up to itself. The night before, the last decision felt heavier than all the others combined, not because anything was happening, but because nothing was left to hide behind. Eli sat alone in the garage long after everyone else had drifted inside. The big doors were half closed now, rain marks dried into pale scars on the concrete. One overhead bulb hummed softly, casting a tired circle of light over a workbench cluttered with tools that no longer looked abandoned. His bag lay at his feet, still packed, still untouched since he'd set it down. Cole found him the same way he always did, without noise, without urgency. "You don't have to sit out here," Cole said. Eli didn't look up. "I know." Cole leaned against the opposite bench, arms folded loosely. He looked older tonight, not worn, resolved, the kind of look people got when they stopped hoping things would be easy and decided they'd be right instead. "They made their move," Cole said. Eli's fingers tightened slightly. "The sedan?" "No," Cole replied. "Paper." Eli looked up then. "What kind?" "The kind that doesn't threaten," Cole said. "The kind that assumes." He handed Eli a folded document. Eli unfolded it slowly, already knowing what it would say before his eyes finished scanning the page. "Recommendation for permanent alternative placement. Best interests of the miner. Environmental risk considerations. It didn't say remove. It didn't say take. It said redirect. They're offering you options, Cole continued. Clean ones, quiet ones. Eli laughed under his breath. Of course they are. Foster placement, another county, new school, no media, no noise. Eli stared at the paper. And Maya? They frame it as healthy separation. That did it. Eli folded the paper back up more carefully than necessary and set it on the bench. So this is where I'm supposed to be grateful, he said. Cole shook his head. No, this is where you're supposed to choose. Eli leaned back against the tool chest, eyes burning. If I go, this ends. Cole didn't deny it. For them. And if I stay, they'll have to explain why they tried so hard to move you. Eli swallowed. I don't want to be someone's lesson. Cole's voice dropped. You already are. Silence stretched between them, thick and honest. I'm tired, Eli said finally. Not scared. Just tired of carrying what other people don't want to look at. Cole nodded. That's fair. Eli waited for the but. It didn't come. Upstairs, a soft sound drifted down the stairwell. Uneven steps, familiar rhythm. Maya. She stopped at the doorway, crutches abandoned now, her gait careful but stubborn. She hadn't said anything yet, just listened. You're deciding, she said. Eli didn't answer. If you leave, she continued, they'll tell the story like you were a moment, not a person. Eli closed his eyes. I don't want you dragged into this. Maya frowned. I already was. The water didn't ask first. She moved closer, stopping just short of the light. Do you know what I remember most? Eli shook his head. Not the cold, she said. Not the dark. She tapped her chest lightly. The weight, when you held on, it didn't feel like rescue. It felt like someone refusing. Eli's throat tightened. They don't like that, Maya added. People who refuse. Cole watched both of them, saying nothing. Eli looked down at his bag, then at the paper, then at the door that led to the road. I don't know how to be permanent, he said quietly. Maya shrugged. I don't know how to swim. We still did it. That was it. Eli picked up the paper, walked to the workbench, and set it down again, this time under a heavy wrench so it wouldn't curl back open. I'm not leaving, he said. Not loud, not dramatic. Final. Cole exhaled slowly, a breath he'd been holding longer than he realized. All right, he said, then we do this clean. The next day, the meeting wasn't held in a courthouse. It was held at the clubhouse, on purpose. Karen arrived first, followed by Ms. Alvarez and a county attorney who looked uncomfortable the moment he stepped inside and saw the space was full, not with bikers posturing, but with people. Teachers, neighbors, a paramedic from the flood, the diner owner who'd stayed open late that night, witnesses. No one spoke at first. Cole stood, not behind a table, not elevated. This is where Eli stays, he said. If you want to argue that, do it looking at the people who kept him alive. Ms. Alvarez cleared her throat. This is highly irregular, Karen answered before Cole could. So is a child jumping into floodwater. The county attorney shifted. We're concerned about precedent. Eli spoke up then. You're not afraid of precedent, he said. You're afraid someone will ask why I had to be the one who stayed. Silence hit hard. Maya stepped forward, standing beside him. If you move him, she said, you'll have to explain why it matters more that he's quiet than that he's here. No one interrupted her. The meeting ended without signatures, without resolution, but also without removal. When they left, Karen lingered. You made it impossible to pretend, she said to Eli. He nodded. That was the point. That evening, the clubhouse felt different, not victorious, settled. Eli sat on the steps with Maya, the sun low and warm, the road stretching ahead like it always had. You're still here, she said. Yeah, she smiled. Good. Cole stood a few feet away, watching them with something like relief etched deep into his posture. The storm was over. The water was gone. What remained was harder. Choice, visibility, and a future that wouldn't let anyone look away. Eli leaned back against the step, breathing in the quiet. Tomorrow would come. And this time, he wasn't going anywhere. The basement dried faster than anyone expected, not because it healed, but because the water had already taken what it wanted. By the end of the week, fans hummed day and night, pushing warm air down the stairwell that was still sealed off with boards and warning tape. Mud stains remained on the walls like tide marks, a permanent reminder of where the flood had stopped and where it would have kept going if no one had intervened. Eli stood at the top of those stairs one last time, and then turned away. Some places didn't need revisiting to be remembered. Life didn't snap back into place. It eased, slowly, carefully. Like everyone involved had learned that sudden movement could make things worse. Maya started school again on a Monday morning that smelled like fresh pavement and wet leaves. Cole drove her himself, hands tight on the steering wheel, eyes checking mirrors more than traffic. She didn't complain. She never had. Before she got out, she leaned back between the seats. "You'll be here," she said to Eli. It wasn't a question. He nodded. "I will." She smiled satisfied and closed the door. The car pulled away and the road swallowed it. Eli watched until it was gone. Back at the clubhouse, the attention faded, not all at once, but enough. No more unmarked cars, no more surprise visits. Karen still checked in, still documented, still warned that nothing was truly permanent. But her tone had changed. She no longer spoke like someone managing a risk. She spoke like someone acknowledging reality. "You're enrolled," she told Eli one afternoon, handing him a folder. "Alternative program, small classes. You'll hate it at first." Eli flipped through the papers, eyes scanning schedules and names that didn't mean anything yet. "I hate most things at first." Karen almost smiled. The club adjusted around him without ceremony. Rourke taught him how to change oil properly. No shortcuts, no rushing. Someone else showed him how to log parts so nothing went missing. Eli learned the rhythm of the place the way he'd learned streets before, by watching, listening, staying out of the way until staying out of the way wasn't necessary anymore. At night, he slept in the back room with the lock that worked both ways. Sometimes he locked it, sometimes he didn't. Cole never asked. One evening, after dinner had been cleared and the radio turned low, Eli found Cole outside, sitting on the steps with a bottle of water, staring down the road like he used to after long rides. "They closed the case," Cole said without looking at him. Eli stopped a few steps away. "Which one?" "All of them," Cole replied. "Flood, custody, placement." Eli waited. "They wrote it as resolved." Cole let out a short breath. "Funny word." Eli sat beside him. "Doesn't feel resolved." "No," Cole agreed, "but it's stable." They sat in silence, the road quiet and empty in front of them. "You ever think about what would have happened if you hadn't jumped?" Cole asked. Eli didn't answer right away. He pictured the stairs, the water, the moment his feet left the concrete. "Yeah," he said finally, "but it doesn't go anywhere useful." Cole nodded. "That's how you know it's done." Inside, laughter drifted out through the open door. Someone arguing about music. Someone else telling a story that had already been told before. Eli leaned back, resting his weight on his hands. "I'm not fixed," he said. Cole glanced at him. "Good." Eli frowned. "Good?" "Fixed things don't grow," Cole replied. "They just sit there pretending they won't break again." That night, rain came back, light this time, just enough to darken the road and make the air smell clean. Eli stood under the overhang, watching it fall. The road didn't call to him. It didn't dare him to run. It didn't promise escape. It simply existed, the way it always had. Maya's voice echoed in his head, not scared, not desperate. He stayed. In the weeks that followed, the basement door remained closed. No one rushed to rebuild it. Some losses didn't need correcting. They needed respecting. Eli started school. He hated it. Then he hated it less. Then one day he realized he hadn't thought about leaving halfway through the afternoon, and that scared him more than any test. Maya drew a picture and taped it to the fridge at the clubhouse. Two figures standing at the top of some stairs, water below them, sun above. Cole didn't say anything when he saw it. He just left it there. One evening, long after the bikes were parked and the lights dimmed, Eli sat alone on the steps again, the same place where so many choices had stacked up. Cole joined him without a word. "You know you can leave someday," Cole said. Eli nodded. "I know. And you don't have to disappear to do it." Eli looked down the road, then back at the building behind him, at the lights, at the sounds, at the weight of being known. "When I do," he said, "it won't be because I have to." Cole smiled, just slightly. "That's the difference." They sat there as the night settled in, the road stretching quiet and honest in front of them. The flood was over, the basement was empty, but something else remained, solid, unmovable. A choice made in water and darkness, a life that didn't vanish when it was supposed to, and a boy who finally understood that staying wasn't the opposite of running. It was the beginning of knowing where you stood.